Welcome back to Redbeard RPG and Pillars of Eternity. We're gonna roll the dice a little bit, and hopefully we don't get attacked here soon. But everybody wants to talk to us. Let's start off with that.
We've come to the end of it, my friend. It has been an honor to walk this road with you, and I will regret our parting.
All the hard-won lessons we survived, I will carry back with me to Ratui. I'll try to do justice by your story, both stranger and more exciting than anything I could have conjured up. Victory agrees with you, Redbeard. You look as if the weight is lifted from your shoulders, and I'm glad for it.
Never thought I'd see something like this in my travels. Lends a little perspective, doesn't it?
Sure does.
It's a bitter thing to have come so far only to find that it was all for nothing. Somehow, I don't think we're any better off knowing what we do.
What now?
I guess that's up to you, isn't it? Because I'm too short to reach the controls on that thing. For all I know, when you flip the switch, that thing will blast us all as far as Nasitak. Whatever happens, though, I'm glad we journeyed together.
It's time we settled this.
Good hunting.
Ah, the end of the road greets us at last. You fared well, Watcher. Better than any Watcher has right to. Seems you were afield in need of a flame's cleansing. Would that my own trial had produced such an outcome. I had figured myself for the field all this time. But you were the field, and I the darkness. A lesson neither of Durance nor of Margarin. But with that trial's end, a new one begins. A god's trial. And I will stand in judgment without mercy.
Get him, Durance.
Astounding. I always knew the Leaden Key stood for something big, but I didn't quite realize what I'd gotten myself into. And now, you're in the middle of something even bigger. With a decision that will affect millions. But even if you send the souls somewhere specific now, who knows what the next turn of the wheel will make of them? We can't really control what happens to them. Nor should we try. I had to see the monster Theos had become to realize that.
I won't leave something this important up to chance.
It's your decision, of course. And whatever you decide, I'm glad our paths crossed in Gilded Vale.
Theos, he had hold of your soul from a long time back, seems like. You get what you needed from him?
I got justice.
Not many can say that these days. Not with the gods using the world to settle their problems. You'll be feeling better soon, then. Good. That's real good. You got it figured out what you're going to do about all that?
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Got a lot of people out there thinking they've been abandoned by their gods. There's not much that'll put the fear in you more than that. You can take my word for it. If it was in my power, and I know it's not, but if it was, I'd find a way to give them the courage to face it. Not because they think there's some god looking out for them, but because they've just got it in them.
Yeah, that'd be ideal.
After what you've been through, though, I'm sure you got your own ideas. Better make it good.
All right. Some words of encouragement from everybody. I'm going to gamble and not rest and assume that there's not another fight right away and that we'll have time to stop by Cadnua and rest there. As you approach the machine, the path underfoot suddenly changes into a cobbled road. If you hadn't experienced the visions like this already in Terra Evron, you'd be tempted to believe the machine has sucked you in and deposited you in the middle of nowhere. The sun blazes overhead, and the rolling meadows and the thick forest on either side of the road could be anywhere in Direwolf. A shrill cackle turns your head. Standing next to you is a malnourished man clad in threadbare loincloth and manacles. His entire body is stripped with lash marks, and there are scarred pits where his nose and ears should be. He stinks of stale sweat and unwashed filth. You notice someone wandering down the road, but the figure's back is to you. The scarred slave has your attention for now.
I have observed you, Watcher. The way you handled that noble girl in Deerford, delivering an idol effigy to her uncle. A most careful scheme.
Sure.
You have labored at the pleasure of others. That shriveled hag in Hadrit House. Those preening soldiers with more taste for silk than steel. The wretched tribesmen playing out their fantasies of grandeur. And then you cowered and knelt before the gods themselves, begging one paltry favor and receiving riddles and visions in response. And now the gods give you orders and commands, even while you set out to fix what they cannot. Yet what have they offered you?
Not that much, to be honest with you. I get the feeling this is the way of giving you orders on behalf of his own master. Be careful, Redbeard. Given the bideth of his iron manacle, it's amazing he can raise his bone-thin arm. But he does, and he points to the person walking the other way on the road.
The exiled queen is not an ungrateful patron.
You get a better look at this lone figure and realize she's wearing robes tattered and singed from fire nonetheless. On her head is silhouette of a broken crown. She continues walking, her pace slow but determined.
Finish the work Theos began. Strengthen Woodica with these souls and allow her to become the most powerful of all the gods, with you as her favored.
I've been working against Woodica this whole time. Why would she thank me now after I've defeated her most loyal servant? Loyal and weak. Theos has proved his inadequacy when he failed to anticipate you. A plan exposed is worse than none at all. But you've proven resourceful, equal to the schemes of the god. Woodica has a long memory. Watch her, both friends and foes. She keeps her oaths. Yeah, wouldn't helping Woodica mean the secret of the gods stay hidden? Safely hidden, yes, from violent overlords who would cease to fear punishment in the next life. From heavy-handed masters who would answer to no one. The world needs some schemes, or the souls of the kith are the souls of the kith so pure you would snap the tenuous thread that binds society. Have caution, Redbeard. All schemers desire an ignorant multitude. What they fear most is that we should know enough not to be content in our places. What do you mean by favored? The recipient of Woodica's blessings. She's always had a place for mortals of particular merit. If you help her now, she will become the most powerful of the gods, and you will be the one who made her so. Think of the lifetimes of rewards you would reap. The only reward I wish is the joy of pulling bloody shards of her broken crown from my staff when we finished her with her trial. So says the companion who's been abandoned by his own god. Do you really trust me to make alliances for you? I've explained the alternative, Watcher. Continue as a pawn of the gods or a partner of one. Yeah, I won't help you.
You say that now, but when you're standing in front of the machine, considering the lifetimes and the powers that await you, we'll see what you do.
Yeah, we're gonna do the right thing. All these evils we've seen, all going all the way back to the Saints' War, that's Woodica. Imagine if she was stronger on top of it all. Yeah. With your companions bearing witness, you step up to the place where Theos once stood before his people long ago. The great machine lies in front of you, idle, ready. You've seen this machine and others like it in operation. You understand how it works, the devices for directing souls. As a watcher, it would be a simple matter of influence to influence that direction. Though as big as the machine is, it may be the last thing you ever do. I guess we have to speak the command. There's a shrieking of stone grinding against stone as old cogs loosen and begin to turn. You only have moments before the souls will be sent into the Aether vein. This will be your only chance at redirecting. I guess let's send the souls back into the reincarnation cycle. I think that's what I should be doing. Or should I return them to the bodies they were intended for? Yeah, let's go reincarnation cycle. Let's return the natural order. You close your eyes and expand your perception outward, taking in the immense totality of tens of thousands of souls orbiting the chamber. Your grasp on the souls is tenuous. You find yourself fighting to keep them all within your influence, and you can feel them slipping away as the machine gains speed. A brief moment comes when it feels as though you hold on to all of them at once, and their force is so great it feels like it will tear you apart. In that moment, you dedicate your entire being to bending their orbit and channeling their flow into a new direction.
At your command, the ancient device became your instrument, spinning to life with deafening resonance and gathering up the swirling essence like thread on a great spindle. There, in the pale pulsing glow of the machine that set you on this path long ago, you summoned all your strength, focusing on your objective and blocking out all else. With a single concussive blast that rocked the chamber and sent you tumbling to the ground, you freed the souls from their stasis. Exhausted, your consciousness slipping away, your last sight was of the machine, dark and dormant. Then your eyes closed, and sleep welcomed you at long last. After coming to and searching for some time, you discovered the route Theos used to enter Sun and Shadow, and embarked on a long and arduous ascent back to the surface. You emerged in Ter Evron after days of tunneling through the rubble Theos had left behind, and when you stepped into the daylight, you were faced with a different Deerwood than the one you had left.
Ooh.
At your direction, the lost souls of the Hollowborn were funneled back into the churn of Bareth's wheel to find their way into new vessels and partake in the life they had been denied during Whitewind's legacy. Though parents of Hollowborn would remain just that, the end of Whitewind's legacy would bring about a spate of new, healthy births, with many of the infants bearing souls once meant for Hollowborn children. The natural cycle of life and death had been restored to Deerwood, and with it came a renewed faith in the providence of the gods.
What?
It is said that Galawain is the enforcer of the gods, and is known to hunt down those who wrong them. To wrong Galawain, then, is truly to wake the beast, and the father of monsters took great umbrage at your broken promise to him. Along with Mogren and Abidan, Galawain embarked upon a more direct approach to claiming his quarry. In the months that followed, the frontier settlements of Deerwood were inexplicably attacked by packs of beasts and monsters, suddenly organized and unafraid to approach Kith on their own land. Many such villages were all but destroyed by the time troops could be dispatched from local garrisons.
Whoops.
Those that weren't destroyed by the beasts of Galawain often found themselves at the mercy of the fires of Mogren. A dry spell throughout Deerwood led to a rash of forest fires on a scale not seen since the War of Black Trees, and many settlements paid the price for their proximity to the wilderness. In the cities, meanwhile, dabblers in animancy who had placed souls into golems and other moving vessels soon found that their creations had risen up against them. Such constructs terrorized their surroundings, killing indiscriminately and often in great numbers before being subdued.
Ooh boy.
Though you had killed Lord Radric in his throne room, so strong was his drive to rid his land of Eothasians that he returned to life as a death guard, a deathless crusader for his brutal cause. With the remains of his humanity stripped away, Radric came to see all the people of Gilded Vale as worshippers of Eothas, and one day he led his forces into the village personally to see them all purged from his lands. Gilded Vale was left a hollow shell, its buildings ruined, and its people slaughtered. Even travelers and would-be squatters knew better than to take refuge inside its borders. Lord Radric returned to Radric's Hold, where he remained, keeping eternal watch over his barren domain.
Ooh, I've made some
Following
bad
the
choices,
assassinations of
apparently.
Duke Avar Wolfgren and Lady Webb, Defiance Bay was thrown into political upheaval. In the ensuing weeks, the streets had become the domain of looters and blackguards. Few dared to step outside their own doors alone or unarmed. But order was soon re-established by the Knights of the Crucible, who, despite their depleted numbers, had gained favor in the public eye for their role in the unraveling of the conspiracy surrounding Widewind's legacy, and were quickly reinforced by returning forces from Fleetbreaker Castle. For the Knights, their resurgence marked a return to the tradition as well. Having seen firsthand the dangers presented by dabblers in animancy, the Order quickly abolished the practice internally, preferring the familiarity of their hammers and forges to the uncertainties of Essence and Adra. Their identity rediscovered, the Knights suppressed their political aspirations and began once again to train their recruits in the art of blacksmithing, recapturing the post-revolutionary ideals of Deerwood and regaining the respect of its citizens as a result. Though the machine atop Ter Noaneth had been disabled, it had not seen its last use. Heritage Hill was rebuilt, and no sooner had the first families moved in to resettle the district than members of the Leaden Key, acting under standing orders from their Grand Master, climbed the tower and reactivated the machine. The initiates slew a handful of the new settlers under cover of night and watched as history repeated itself, the victims reanimating and devouring the survivors. After this second incident, the district would remain abandoned.
Good grief.
The Duke's assassination at the apparent hands of an animancer had caused catastrophic rioting in the streets of Defiance Bay, and few animancers survived the first day. Many Deerwoodans took the end of Widewind's legacy as a sign, both that the gods did not approve of animancy, and that the purging of animancers in Defiance Bay had been enough to satisfy them. In time, their rage would subside, and a number of surviving animancers remained in and around Defiance Bay, often taking to the wilds to practice their science without repercussions. In the town of Deerford, an underground cult dedicated to Scan insinuated itself into the town's institutions. It became a popular travel destination for the wealthy, who were actively courted by the town's leadership. But few who visited the town would ever return, as they soon found their fortunes plummeting and their reputations destroyed by their own kin.
Good grief.
The fortress of Cadnua emerged as a bastion of security in the midst of an untamed land, becoming the envy of every Thane and Earl in Deerwood. Legend grew over time of its impregnability, and stories of formidable invaders easily scattered by the keep's defenses became popular around the hearths of Deerwoodinians. Likewise, it also became a beacon to travelers, merchants, and visiting dignitaries alike. Reputed as the finest fortress in all Deerwood, people would journey from near and distant lands alike to experience its fabled hospitality and grandeur. Palagina had gone against the Duke's Bell's orders by inventing a new trade arrangement with the Anamenfath to accommodate the recovering Deerwooden market. With the Deerwood's people still weakened by Widewind's legacy, the Valian republics easily pushed their would-be competitors out of the market. For her outrageous insubordination and audacity, Palagina was banished from the republics. She traveled north in the Eastern Reach, avoiding Valian ports and entering the ranks of the kind wayfarers. Despite her bravery and dedication to those in her care, her strange appearance made her feel like an outsider wherever she went. Adair chose not to return home to Gilded Vale. Still most comfortable far from cities, he settled in Deerford, which, like many towns in the Deerwood, was beginning the slow process of rebuilding. Believing now that it was the obligation of Kith to be the leaders their gods had not, Adair was soon named mayor of the town, and under his guidance, Deerford soon began to prosper.
That kind of contradicts
he expelled
the
last of the
thing.
Scanites from the area and drew new settlers with the offer of land, a trick he had learned from someone he otherwise preferred to forget. With each passing day, Deerford would come to more closely resemble the Gilded Vale of Adair's childhood, the one worthy of its name. When the dust settled in sun and shadow, Aloth looked upon the remains of Theos Ixarchanon, his former master. He saw where the Grand Master had gone wrong and what would be required to undo the harm Theos had wrought. With a flick of his wrist, he burned Theos's robe, headdress, and every other symbol of the man's power. Never again, he vowed, should Kith live in fear and blind obedience to an authority they did not understand. Armed with the knowledge and courage he had gained on his journeys with the Watcher, he set out on the long and lonely task of dismantling the Leaden Key. With both their aims fulfilled, Kana Rua bid the Watcher farewell and sailed back to his beloved Rawatai. There, he reported on his findings to the Lore College. Kana spoke of the Engwithan people, describing both their vile experiments and their inspiring accomplishments. He spoke too of the destruction of the tablet by the Leaden Key, and the group's efforts to erase the Engwithan legacy from the world. Both inspiration and cautionary tales, he said, could be found in the world beyond Rawatai's borders. Kana urged his people to continue to pursue knowledge abroad, so that the lessons found there might benefit Tekoa. Kana's inability to prove his theory of Engwithan influence diminished his academic standing, but his passion drew much interest from those less concerned with degrees. Kana swiftly became an influential figure in the move toward a more collaborative approach to expansion on the northern continent. In his personal life, he came to enjoy the reputation of an affable eccentric, willing to share grand and impossible secrets, along with a drink and a song. With Theos defeated and the souls released from Sun and Shadow, healthy children were born once again in the Deerwood. The grieving mother sought a place where she might do penance for the birthing bell. She returned to Deerford, where, to the astonishment of the villagers, she delivered the first healthy child in over a decade. She remained there, and with each new birth, she saw a measure of hope restored to the Deerwood, and a measure of grace for her own troubled past. Durrance used Magrin's strength only until Theos had been cast from the world, and then swore off her influence entirely. Regret came to weigh heavily on his mind, and a man who had never previously lacked for words or opinions came to embrace silence and contemplation. He continued to wander, penniless and destitute, searching now not for the reason for his goddess's silence, but for a mechanism for revenge. The charred robes he continued to wear as a reminder that he had been burned by his goddess, and not just by the flames of the Godhammer. In her 4-month journey back to Nositok, Sagani found that the landscapes she traveled had become strangely colorless, the food bland and unsatisfying. She watched the Deerwood, Air Glonfoth, the Valian Republics, and the lands beyond slide by with a dull sense of dread. She returned home to great celebration, yet the words of joy and congratulations rang hollow to her. Old beloved songs sounded toneless. The rituals of changing seasons became drudgery, and Sagani experienced her life back in Masuk as if in someone else's skin. So she fought to feel the worth of her actions, or at least to let her village feel them. She led ever longer and more ambitious hunts, mentoring the younger rangers who followed her. On one such expedition, her party was beset by a blizzard, and she pressed on where her companions turned back. She did not return to Masuk.
What?
For you, the death of Theos brought an end to your waking visions, and a silence to the whispers of the past. In their absence, you were able to sleep. The questions of a distant lifetime ceased to trouble your soul. All that remained was what to make of the answer. But at the moment, there was little to be done, and the matter would have to wait. A long journey loomed ahead.
Indeed it did. These credits. We'll buzz through these nice and quick. This game was pretty freaking good. There's no doubt about that. I wonder, obviously my decisions had an impact on that story, because it mentioned some of the things I did specifically that at the time seemed like the right thing to do, but apparently the outcome was not exactly optimal. So yeah, there's tons of ways that this game can end. Now I wonder, do I get to continue, or do I have to go back to the save before? I enter the end game section in order to do like White March and stuff like that. Because that, I feel like, could be quite a problem. Yeah, it seems like that might be the case. If I click continue, where does it take me? Let's find out. I did gain some levels throughout that end game little section there. I don't really have a ton of opportunities to gain levels elsewhere, if I remember correctly. Yep, this takes me right back to there. So, in order to do White March, I have to load game and go to, yeah, Burial Isle pre-end game. We're gonna have to start here. Interesting. So the White March enemies are tougher than the enemies in the main quest, but you can't beat them first. That is strange. So then, how in the heck? What do we got? All right, that's the main quest stuff. We obviously can't go any further with that. We got Durgan's battery. We were getting beat up there. We could get the grieving mother of the party and do her quest line. That's probably the way to go. That thing whipped our butt. This one, I don't think we have the skill to do. The Seagon Craighold is before Durgan's battery, so we'll get beat up there. Master Below beats us up. We could see where the sealed missive goes to gain a little XP. And the pieces of the ancient sword, I actually literally need to gain levels in order to do that. If you don't have, I looked this one up. If you don't have anyone with high enough mechanics, then you just won't find the pieces of the sword. So let's, we'll have to figure out who do we replace with the cipher in the meantime. That's obviously what we need to do so we can do the mother quest line. I guess. I mean, do we give Kana a break? We got decisions to make. Obviously, we need to go back to Caed Nua first. I want to do the DLC on this one. I know I normally don't do DLCs on this channel, but not only do I have it, but this game's really good. So I want to see kind of where it goes. Let's go ahead. We'll take a quick rest. Actually, let's go to, which one's party management? Character journal. And the stronghold, yeah, that's what it is. Who do we get? I guess Kana. It's kind of unfortunate we'll lose a tank. I don't know if the cipher is more. I mean, is that more priest-like or is that more wizard-like? You know, let's give Aloth a break.
Farewell.
Let's see how that goes. And then I can't dismiss myself, but I don't really want two druids in the party. That seems suboptimal. Alright, let's we'll take a rest. We'll get the survival bonus. And then how do I don't see an option to talk to her. See, what kind of spells does she have? Reduce damage. Generating. She kind of seems, looking at these spells, like she's kind of in between the priest and the wizard. She has debuffs, but she has a fair amount of damaging spells. She doesn't have any like straight heals, so I think we made a good call there. I think that'll work.
Hey.
So the question becomes, what the heck do we do? I guess we can go back to Kriegholt and see if we can make it work. Wish we could do this one. Powerful cipher. Says learn about her past. I'm assuming that's just something more time you spend with her, maybe the more you get there. All right, well, I guess it's back to Kriegholt. Let's hope we can handle it this time. Because, yeah, we have to get through Kriegholt to get to... Unless there's another quest somewhere that we're missing. All right. And unfortunately, we'll have to hopefully start making some progress through here next time. Thank you all so very much for watching. Have a good one.